Alright, hey, what's up guys? Hello, hello. Just gonna wait a couple more seconds to let people know, well, for YouTube to let people know that we are live. Hello, hello. While we're waiting for people to get the notifications, we are almost at 700 subs. That is amazing. And 300 more and, or 300 plus more. And we'll be at 1,000. Alright. Ooh, there's a lot of people here tonight. Welcome, welcome. Okay, I think the audio and everything is working correctly. I think people are finally getting their notifications. Come on in, come on in. We'll be starting in less than a minute here. Alrighty, alrighty. Hey, what's up, Joe? Hello, hello to nothing. Welcome, welcome. Okay. Let's begin. Bring down the music here a little bit. Okay, can everyone hear me? Let me adjust my mic here. Okay. The audio is working fine, connection's great. Yes, awesome. Okay, perfecto. All right, so let's first quickly go over the overall markets. Okay, so we ended up breaching on SPY the daily 10 SMA, and then we ended up snapping right back over it. I mean, that's the usual reaction we tend to see when we have an initial test on any moving average, whether it be a simple moving average or an exponential moving average, right? So if you guys are wondering what those two different things are, there are moving averages, but they're slightly different in the way that they're formed through a different calculation. Okay, but if you just want to avoid the math, just take a look at the difference between a simple moving average and an exponential moving average, and you guys will clearly see that the exponential moving averages tend to closely follow the price action. It tends to be a bit more sensitive to daily price action movement or whatever time frame that you guys are looking at. And a simple moving averages kind of give you almost a bigger picture outlook with the way that it moves, right? It's a lot slower in perspective, okay, in different time frames. So that's kind of the major difference that you guys can see, right? That's the most obvious observation that you guys will be able to see when you compare EMAs and SMAs, right? I get that question all the time, and it really doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter what you use. It does matter depending on how you trade, right? EMAs tend to be a bit better for scalpers and the day traders, but when you are swing trading or even just have long-term positions for a couple months at a time, SMAs are your way to go, right? So With that being said, okay, so for SPY, we are seeing a slowdown in momentum. I've strictly stated this last week that, you know, post OPEX is most likely going to be where the window of weakness is going to open, and we're going to see some volatility come back, especially as headlines continue to crush the markets, in a sense that it will either have a very nice long move up higher or a very nice long downward move lower. Okay, so there's gonna be a lot of chop as we head into the end of this month as well. I've given everyone in the CFO report over the weekend what my kind of timeline is as to regarding how this market trend and reaction will be, and so far it has been following and adhering to what I've been looking for, right? So as far as tomorrow goes, I would expect to see a little bit of a bounce. I mean, we've seen the VIX dropping to low and absolutely crushing below, and making a lower low compared to last Friday's low. So that's great to see, right? We're still seeing pretty successful drops in VIX whenever we do see a little tiny pop. Now, I would have to say though, it is still getting a little bit dangerous here, as we have begun to make higher highs and higher lows. So that is something to keep an eye out on as we head into the end of this month, and especially into the last half of this week. Okay, so that is going to be very, very important. All right, now as far as QQQ goes, okay, so we did see a lot more broadening of strength. So if you guys didn't know, we have been watching out for this internal rotation between semiconductors and software, right? So we have two major groups in the overall tech sector, and that is the semiconductors and the software group. And also, if you guys want to be a bit more specific, within the software group, we also have cybersecurity stocks, right? So you know, the two major groups right now are semiconductors and software, and we've been seeing this kind of dance between money inflows and outflows between those two groups. And today was clearly another confirmed observation of the fact that we are seeing this rotation into software as money comes out of semiconductors. And this is, again, not just a complete rotation. This is just pretty much a pause in momentum for semiconductors, and that's allowing the laggard software group to kind of have a little moment for themselves, right? After having such a wild downward pressure since the middle of last year, or actually all of last year, to be honest. So, you know, with further selling occurring earlier this year, I think there's a good chance that these laggard software names and individual tickers can have their moment with an overall midterm trend to the upside, or reversals to the upside. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, Nasdaq was a lot more weaker because of the fact that it has been mainly the semiconductors driving, along with just a handful of the Magnificent Seven group, right? So Mag 7 group. So again, it will make sense that Nasdaq, that has been leading because of semiconductors and the Mag 7 group, to be a little bit weaker than the S&P 500 today, because of the fact that we're seeing this internal rotation occurring within Nasdaq. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's kind of the overall market review and what you guys should be expecting for tomorrow and into the rest of this week. Okay, and obviously a lot more detailed versions of what I've just told you guys. Well, all these different types of versions of what I've told you guys will be provided in the actual CFO report, and also in the private Discord community, okay? So if you guys are interested in that, just take a look at the description box down below. The very second link will show you guys the way, and that is it for my little plug before we start with the actual topic for tonight. Okay, so ONDS, or Ondas Holdings, or ondas? I personally say ondas, but I'm pretty sure that I'm wrong. But if I'm not, then hey, yay. So this is ticker symbol ONDS. Okay, so first of all, what are they, right? So they're a company focused on wireless technology, and specifically drones. Okay, so military tech, quote unquote high tech drone technology is what they like to call themselves as a company. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this is that when you take a look at their fundamental metrics, just the basic fundamental metrics that everyone tends to look at for any type of company, right? And I've shown you guys my quick snapshot, right? Fundamental metrics that I tend to look at to see how a company is doing, right? Well, everything is taking off, right? On my list of what I want to see when a company is growing spectacularly, right? Like absolutely amazing, right? And ONDS is that company, and I'll be giving you guys a quick look as to how that's or why that is, right? And why I believe that is. It is a company that is growing exponentially and it's just doing absolutely amazing for the last few quarters. Now, before I get into that, let me quickly go over some simple technical analysis on this ticker. I've done it multiple times in the past, but just as a quick review, okay? So ONDS has been basing between I would say 8.7 here as a major level of support, right? And then a major level of resistance around $12. Okay, so a whole number level of resistance at $12, and then a pretty solid level of support around $8.70. Hey, what's up, guys? Ooh, thank you guys so much for the likes. Oh, someone's alarm is going off. Uh-oh. Okay, so with that being said, okay, this massive base basically began when share prices kind of topped out in October 2025, and we've still been stuck in this range since October of last year. So this is a month-long base between $8.70 to $12. Now within this massive base here, we also have some levels here, $9.50 and $11.55. Okay, and the price continues currently to range trade between these two internal levels within the overall massive base here between $12 and $8.70. So I think there's a good chance to well, there is an opportunity here, right? This is NFA, right? Do your own research, right? But it's looking pretty interesting as to how the price has been reacting off of the back of the recent quarterly earnings report, which we'll be getting into. And I think this is where Mr. Market is definitely looking to make shares cheaper on this company after such a stellar earnings report and numbers and guidance. And I'm going to go over this okay in a couple minutes. But I just wanted to tell you guys that this reaction alone tells me that, hey, maybe, just maybe, we might be expecting to see a retest of the lower ranges here, maybe between 8.70 and to 9.50, which is what we did exactly today, since the low of the day today was $9.46. So quite literally 4 cents away from my level here that I've drawn. And also, obviously, the actual retest of the daily 10 SMA. Now, do I like the fact that we're moving down? No, right? But there is a reason why that I think there is an opportunity brewing here when we're looking at the overall picture of this company. So that is what we're working with right now. The price just continues to be stuck in the sideways trance between $8.70 to $12. All right, now let's get into the heavy stuff here, the kind of the non-sexy parts of analyzing a company here. Okay, so we have practically 4 to 5 metrics to look at for ONDS, and the reason why, or the reasons why I think ONDS has a lot of potential to squeeze back to double digits, especially over $10, since it just broke below that today and closed below that today as well, unfortunately. But again, I think in the mid to longer term future, a double digit share price is not out of the question for this company. So I think ONDS definitely has a lot of room to go back to $14 to $15 as seen here on a technical perspective, but there's a fundamental reason as well. Okay, so let's first knock down the first metric here that I'm looking at. So the one thing that really surprised me when I was reading their earnings report, and again guys, just a little quick side note, if you guys aren't reading earnings reports, when you have the time, you guys are missing out on a lot of information, right? You guys are missing out on how these companies are, these publicly traded companies are, even just formulating their earnings reports, and just how they come up with these numbers and how they're able to showcase to shareholders, their own shareholders, how they've performed in the last quarter. Okay, and if you guys just have the time, just peruse their earnings report, right? Or even just the transcripts of the Q&A session that most companies have, as analysts from institutions call in and ask their CEO, the COO, the CFO, and etc. Right? Specific questions that are valuable for analysts to know to whether or not they want to upgrade, downgrade, or update their price targets on this company, and just overall creating the street targets that many people like to look at, right? Especially retail traders. So again, I think there's a lot of information to learn from earnings reports. I try to read them as often as possible when I have the time. If you guys are ever seeing me on my phone, I'm usually looking at data from earnings reports. If you ever see me in real life, okay. But yeah, so with ONDS, the first thing that really just popped out in front of my eyes was the revenue growth. Okay, and luckily for us, TradingView can give us a very nice look into that the revenue growth. I don't know why I keep saying earnings. So the reported revenue for the first quarter of this year was 50.12 million. Okay, now do you guys want to see the actual year-over-year change compared to last year? Well, here it is. Okay, so here is the first quarter of 2025. Oh, right here. Okay, so the reported revenue in the first quarter of 2025 was 4.25 million. Let that sink in. Right, so in just a little over a year, this company has seen a surge in revenue. Okay, so we went from quarter one again, 4.2 million to around $50.1 million. Okay, so that's so far year over year. I think that's like, what is that? That's over 1,000% year over year. Right? So the quarter one revenue is absolutely insane. Now, of course, from a surface level perspective, you guys also have to question, well, will this revenue growth continue? Well, absolutely. Okay, and the reason being is that, well, their backlog, right, the volume of backlog orders that they have is absolutely insane as well. Okay, so from the earnings report, I wrote these numbers down. Okay, so in quarter one of 2025, be ready for this, guys. The backlog in revenue, okay, potential revenue, obviously, it's backlog orders, right, of future revenue, okay, for quarter one of 2025 was 16.8 million. Do you guys want to guess what the quarter one of this year's backlog revenue numbers were? Any guesses? Of course, they would have to fulfill, the backlog orders and, and etc. They have to execute. They have to actually execute. But that's also another topic that we'll talk about because they are executing. But any guesses? Anyone? Again, the quarter one 2025 backlog number was 16.8 million. Not quite. There's way more than that, right? Because we have to see why this company will be able to potentially consistently provide rapid revenue growth, right? So not 20 million. Okay, I'll tell you guys. Yeah, there's a lot of you guys here tonight. Welcome. Make sure you guys hit that like button. So, are you guys ready for this? Right? You guys really ready? Write this down too, if you guys want to write this down. So again, quarter one 2025, the backlog revenue numbers were 16.8 million. And then for this first quarter of this year was 457 million in backlog. So this is future revenue, right? So this is a huge jump. I mean, even just from last quarter, right? I think last quarter, what I write down here was 68.3 million. So massive, massive jump. Right, so it seems like this company is doing something right? They're gaining the attention of the government. They're gaining attention from other companies. It seems like it's building out some good rapport, obviously, with other larger companies that are looking to get their wireless technology and their drone technology, right? And all that really comes down to, with these drastic growth in revenue and backlog revenue as well, is the actual execution, right? So now when it comes to the actual execution part, okay, the company is guiding for this fiscal year of 2026 390 million in revenue, right? So they're also saying that, hey, we do know we have this huge jump in backlog of orders. We also know there's been a jump in revenue, this huge growth in revenue from just last year alone, the same quarter. But we're also able to consistently, for this whole entire year, we are confident in saying that we will be able to execute these backlog of orders. Does that make sense? All right, so first of all, again, the revenue, okay, the backlog, and their overall guidance and outlook is all extremely bullish. Right, the company themselves are saying that, right? And their numbers aren't well, they're not lying, right? Unless, I don't know why they would, right? So, yeah, Joel, you're pretty close, but you just had to add another extra zero there. Okay, so again, the backlog was 457 million, and the year over year, no, not even just year over year, but just from the last quarter, right? So here, let me show you guys, just in quarter 4 2025, just take a look at this. Right, so the revenue was 30.1 million, that was reported last year, right? And then now to this year is 50.12 million. And in this same period, in the same quarterly period, the backlog of orders grew about almost 600% in just 3 months alone. That is insane. All right, so the company's doing something right? It's absolutely doing something right. Now, what's also interesting about this company, and let me actually show it to you guys now on Koifin. Okay. So these are incredible numbers, by the way, if you guys haven't realized. All right, these are just, obviously these are just surface level fundamental metrics that we want to look at. I mean, we have to look at. These are very important numbers, but this is clearly telling us that there is some sort of a growth story happening here with ONDS. Okay, so here it is. All right, so what I really like here is this consistency with the growth in profit margins, right? So in the last 2 quarters alone, right, there's been a significant growth in profit margins, right? The gross profit margins, and ever since last year as well, right? There's been ups and downs, right? But this has been improving. Okay. Now, as you guys can clearly see just from these 2 metrics alone, right? I always talk about this, right, on the balance sheet. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome in. For anyone who's just joining us now, you guys have missed out on some important numbers, but that's okay. You guys can just watch the replay. But what I'm talking about now is also very important. So, the cash on hand and short-term investments. If you just take a look at the ratio between the cash and short-term investments to total debt, I mean, that's a gargantuan difference. Right, so we have 1.5 billion in cash and short-term investments, so they're overall assets, and the total debt is sitting at 4.37 million. So we can essentially say that they don't have any debt, right? And the other most important thing about total debt, when you're looking at the fundamental metrics of a company, is the actual trend in debt. And guess what? This company has been paying down their debt, including principal, right? Including principal, excuse me, the principal and the interest, including interest is what I meant to say, right? So the principal on top of the interest, right? They have been paying it down to where they essentially don't have any debt. So I really wouldn't be surprised if this total debt still stays around the same number, or it goes down even lower, right? Or maybe they have zero debt by the next quarterly earnings report. So it seems like the executives here have a great plan in mind that they have been consistently executing, right? And it seems like this plan has been in place since 2025, right? After this slightly large jump. I believe this is due to an acquisition, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, so they have been able to bring down significantly of this total debt. And if you, again, put it up against the overall cash on hand and their overall short and long-term assets, it just seems such a minute number, right? It seems like we could just completely forget about their total debt at this point. And that's exactly what we want to see, right? And so they're able to have more flexibility as a company, right? They're able to probably in the next couple of quarters try to increase their free cash flow, which currently right now is in the negatives. But again, their overall outlook on everything, kind of everything, their overall guidance on everything is very, very positive. So again, just off of these two metrics alone, I am absolutely loving what this company is doing. And obviously the overall trend in the last 2 to 3 quarters for their gross profit margin percentages are absolutely amazing as well. All right, so let's do a quick review here, right? So we have, first of all, their revenue, okay, year over year, it's over 1,000% change year over year, right? So again, the Q1 revenue was 4.2 million. And then the first quarter of this year was 50.1 million. Okay, so again, you guys can see that clearly here on TradingView, 50.1 million. And then if you go back to the Q1 results of 2025, we have 4.2 million. Right, so a huge, huge jump. And obviously we've seen a very, very valid response in the share price, and obviously the overall market cap and market value, right, of this company go up. That makes sense. Okay, so this is still a mid-cap company, if you guys didn't know. After today's close, it's at 4.71 billion. That is a mid-cap company. All right, so revenue has gone up over 1,000% since Q1 of 2025. So again, year over year. And the backlog growth, right? This is the most important number when you're taking a look at whether or not revenue is going to consistently grow in the next few quarters or into next year. Backlog growth has been from 16.8 million from Q1 2025 to 457 million to Q1 of this year. That's a massive, massive, massive jump. Okay, and you have to be paying attention to these type of numbers, right, when you're reading an earnings report. That's the reason why I grabbed it, right? So absolutely amazing. Okay, and yes, their free cash flow has been negative, okay, but again, their top line growth has been, well, growing. Right, so free cash flow will if they are executing correctly, if they have financial they have a good financial perspective and execution at hand from the executives, right, who control the company, the free cash flow should follow as well, right? It shouldn't be in the negatives for too long, right? So I'm not really, concerned about the free cash flow, especially when you're looking at their overall balance sheet, right? Just take a look at their income sheet as well, their income statement, right? So the overall balance sheet as well, from their total debt, right, the cash on hand, their short and long-term assets, and just the overall short and long-term liabilities, right? If you just take a look at the ratio of all of those metrics, absolutely amazing. Okay, so ONDS, it's absolutely mind-boggling when I'm looking at these numbers and taking a look at how the share price reaction has been so far after its recent earnings results, right? And yes, there has been some dilution of shareholders as well, right? I understand that, right? But when you're taking a look at a potential growth company like this, sometimes you just have to look at the dilution and put it in the back burner. Okay, yeah, you just have to forget about it at that point because they're just putting up some stellar numbers, right? So it's just pretty much an amazing amount of, I mean, for me, guys, the backlog number is absolutely the most important number to me. Okay, I mean that's such an absolutely amazing jump from 16.8 million to 457 million. I mean, that's insane, right? And I did some digging too, and a lot of these orders are from different continents around the globe, so they have a pretty good spread, right? It's not just a concentrated amount of orders from a single company or a single country, right? It's widely spread out, so that's great, right? So that gives us kind of a runway of visibility for the revenue, for the revenue and revenue growth, not just the revenue numbers themselves, but the overall revenue growth for the next quarters and obviously into the next year as well, right? So again, ONDS is just, I think they're just on their way towards profitability, right? In the next year or so. I believe, from what I remember, they are trying to reach profitability by 2028. I think it was it was either quarter 4 2027 or early 2028, right? So maybe quarter 1 or quarter 2 of 2028. But I'm somewhere around the time frame, okay? But I truly believe that they're doing everything right now when it comes to top line growth, right? And also just overall making sure that the company is in good financial health, right? So based on every single metric that I've just shown you guys and talked about. So, just with ONDS, with a company like this, I think there's a lot of potential here, even just as a drone company. Obviously, there's been a lot of hype with drones and overall wireless technology as well. And ONDS could be kind of in the pinnacle or just in the spotlight for more news to come out of drone companies and just overall wireless tech. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, when we kind of overlay the information that we have here to the technical chart, there is, again, a pretty much, I think, a solid opportunity for share prices to come back over $10, the double digit here, and into $14 to $15. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, guys, I am going to explosive revenue growth. There's a backlog explosion as well that will sustain the explosion in that revenue growth in that department, right? And we're also seeing quarter by quarter gross margin expansion. Their profitability pathway seems to be currently going underway, currently going perfectly on within their time frame, right? This company is still focusing on potential acquisitions as well, based on what we've seen so far with that brief increase in debt when we're taking a look at that total debt numbers earlier. But again, there has been some dilution, which again I really don't think should be a point that anyone should really try to hang on to, especially when we have such a great growth story coming out of this right now from this company. But again, this is just, it's just absolutely amazing, right? The revenue growth alone is just amazing, and you don't want to miss out on how a company performs for the next, just the next 12 months. Let's say next 12 months, 6 to 12 months. How about that? Let's give a little bit of a good time range. You don't want to miss something. You don't want to miss something that's going this well on a company in the next 6 to 12 months, especially when we're seeing a mid-cap company doing these type of numbers. Does that make sense? Right? So when you have a backlog of orders that is at almost $500 million and it has jumped, right, from I believe in the last quarter alone, in the last quarter was 68 million, 68.3 specifically, 68.3 million in quarter 4 of 2025 to 457 million to this first quarter of this year. So, I mean, that alone is impressive, but what's even more impressive was the year-over-year change from 16.8 million, again, 16.8 million to 457 million. So that growth is undeniably strong, and their progression towards profitability is definitely going to be a lot more easier as long as they continue to execute well with these volume of backlog of orders, and obviously the fact that this company did tell everyone with the most recent quarterly earnings report that they're expecting to execute well, as their overall fiscal year 2026 guidance and outlook is still around 390 million, and that can still go a lot higher by the end of this year. So that's something that you have to watch out for. Does that make sense, guys? And just to make things clear, right? This backlog of orders is not concentrated in. There's no concentration. There's no risk of concentration, right? Where this company is not just having one single order from one big company, right? This is from multiple companies that spans multiple continents, right? I believe they have a bunch of orders in the Middle East, right? A bunch of orders from both Europe and Asian countries, or European and Asian countries. Obviously, they have orders in the US and in Canada, right? So this is something that I think it's a very good developing growth story that really everyone should be taking a look into. Yes, it's still high risk stock, right? Even just based on the reaction that we've seen in the last 3 days, including today, off of what seemingly was a blowout earnings report, right? And a blowout quarterly earnings report. So, I really do think that all of this evidence that we've been seeing, that this company is providing all these little breadcrumbs as to how they've been doing in the last quarter alone, tells me that we should be taking a look at this company. Even if you don't like this company, or even if you don't want to look at this ticker, I think there is still a very good opportunity to at least add it into your watch lists, right? And just keep it on sidelines, right? Just take a look at it every once in a while and see how it's doing, right? Because the fundamental metrics here are just it's showing something. It's showing something here that I think can be very explosive in the next couple of months. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so you guys' reactions there. Awesome. Okay, now, I would like to see this company, even if they have a little bit of total debt left, right? Basically, essentially zero. If you guys want to compare the actual amount of cash on hand that they have, along with their long-term and short-term assets, they basically don't have any total debt, because they can pay off the current debt they currently have with the interest on top of that, right? Easily, really easily. But I think in the future, right? In the near-term future, this company could still leverage debt. Believe it or not. I mean, it won't be the number one option, but if they would have to do it, they would be able to do it, right? But if they continue to have and grow their cash on hand, just their overall cash reserves, how about that, right? I don't think I will become bearish just because they've decided to utilize debt and leverage debt to further grow their company, because it just shows that they have such financial goals, right? The financial health goals of the company in mind whenever they are reporting earnings, right? The earnings reports, every single quarterly earnings reports, because they've just shown that they have this mindset of providing good financial health for this company moving forward. So obviously you guys can say that, well, maybe they're just going to do this until they reach profitability. Sure, that is a great perspective to take, but think about this. Why would the management, right? Why would the management decide to say, okay, screw this, we're going to start utilizing debt, quite a lot of debt, and to leverage their growth once we reach profitability, right? Why wouldn't they just stick to the same program that they've stuck to reach profitability, right? So it always boggles my mind when people say, that this could all change once they reach profitability. But why though, right? If they're able to have such good financial practices within this company to achieve potential profitability in the next year or two, why would they want to suddenly, shift that those financial practices within the company, right? They want to make sure that they're providing shareholder value as well, and that comes with a good financial health of the overall company. Does that make sense? All right. So that's something that you guys should always question yourselves when you guys are taking a look at a company that is unprofitable but are making some amazing strides and significant strides to become profitable and cash positive as well. Does that make sense? Okay, I see you guys' reactions there. Okay, so I think, it just makes sense to me that ONDS should be, at least, if you guys are slightly interested in this company, right? Obviously, it's NFA, right? DYOR, right? I'm not saying that you guys should be grabbing this right now, right this second, but having a fielder position in this company won't hurt, I think. All right. Yes, it's going to be a speculative position. Obviously, it is a mid-cap company. I know a lot of people avoid small and mid-cap companies due to such volatility in market value and just overall share price volatility every single day. But if the management team is able to deliver profitability in the next year or two, I think that will be realized into the share price and the overall market cap, and we should be seeing some consistent good news coming out of the stock, as well as they continue to scout for more deals, more contracts, as they continue to grow their backlog of orders. Now, the next thing that I really want to see the company executing is the actual, that backlog of orders, right? I want to see them executing the backlog of orders, and that number being reflected, right, off of their revenue, right? So next quarterly earnings report, they're going to need to do some exceptional stuff to make sure that they're able to consistently provide the growth numbers to say, yes, we are seeing a consistent growth in revenue. So maybe in the next quarter, I will want to see 65 to 70 million in revenue, right? Or even more, maybe in the triple digits, okay? Because again, their guidance is still very much up there. They are providing some very, very good runway for their overall guidance and outlook for revenue numbers specifically. So again, even their earnings, right? I mean, if you just take a look at the earnings, right? The reported earnings last quarter was negative 0.35 or negative 0.33, and then for this quarter was 0.81, right? So that's a pretty good development, if I say so myself, right? So I think with the overall cash on hand that they have, with 1.4 billion, right? That also gives them leeway, guys. Flexible, again, like what I said earlier when I was just showing you guys the cash/short-term investments on Koifin. That $1.4 billion worth of cash on hand that they have can also provide them flexibility to acquire smaller companies, right? Maybe small cap companies specifically, right? Or micro cap companies to grow the company. Again, like I stated a couple minutes ago, They can utilize debt and leverage debt to grow the company. That is one way, right, to continue to grow the company in the next couple of years. And they, again, I really don't think they will have a problem with doing that, but it wouldn't be my first choice, which is the reason why if you go to their cash on hand, right, and their overall short-term and long-term assets, they have a huge amount of cash on hand, sitting at 1.4 billion. And they can use that amount of cash that they have to acquire smaller companies. And I also wouldn't worry about the amount of debt that they will be able to take on if they do acquire smaller companies, because again, these small companies do have a lot of debt, as they almost always leverage debt to try to grow, and obviously try to get some attention from the bigger companies if they're looking for a sale or for an acquisition or a merger. But if ONDS decides to take on and acquire a company to grow that way, right, to grow their business, their core business, and their revenues, the overall revenue, just their overall revenue. That's what I'm trying to say here. And if they take on debt from the smaller company, I really don't think they will have any trouble to pay down their debt. So again, I'm simply stating that there is no reason why this company won't be able to pay down any of their debt or debts in the future. They have obviously already proven that they've been able to do that for the last few quarters, the last like 6 quarters from what I've seen so far. So that is a pretty consistent and constant showing from the company that they're able. They're telling the shareholders that they're able to pay down their debts. Okay. All right. So again, it's really mind-boggling to me to see that the share price have been consolidating for months on end here. Okay. It's been like over 8 months. Yeah, over 8 months now. So it's nearly almost 9 months. So just the sideways consolidation has to break in one way or another here. So if the fundamentals are true to what they've been telling us so far, and with the overall earnings report has been true so far with their numbers, I think this overall consolidation period that this stock has been in for the last 8+ months can resolve to the upside, and obviously go back to being a double-digit share price stock, and also possibly reach this supply area between $14 and $15. Okay, and my own personal speculative profit target for ONDS will be $20. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, because I have seen what momentum does on the backdrop of these amazing, spectacular numbers. All right, these absolutely amazing revenue growth numbers. All right, I've seen that in previous companies as well, in small cap and mid cap companies alike. So, I mean, record quarter here for this year so far, and I would be expecting another record quarter in quarter 2 of this year as well. Okay, I believe they have, it looks like they're ready to report their second quarter's earnings report around August 17th of this year. Does that make sense, guys? So from the beginning to the end of the stream, I've been talking about ONDS and just the overall absolutely spectacular growth in the most recent earnings report. And I would highly recommend you guys to just go on their page, their website, and take a look at their investor relations tab. I mean, every publicly traded company is required to have it. Okay, let me just show you guys here. Here it is, their website. Okay, here's the investor relations tab, right? And you guys can read their latest financial results. You guys can listen again to the webcast and their conference call as well too. Okay, there's a lot of options here to really learn, and obviously they have their 10Q as well too. Okay, so a lot of resources here just on a publicly traded company's homepage alone. Okay, so I think ONDS definitely this company should try to find some positive news to put out for the overall public, because I think this reaction here is absolutely horrendous. I don't think this really fits in with the fact that they've just posted some amazing numbers. Yes, there again, the topic of dilution has been on top of all the shorts and the bears on this name. I've seen it online, but hey, even if dilution is still currently going on, I really don't think that's enough to completely ignore the growth numbers that have been absolutely been reported off of this company. Okay, in the last 2 quarters, right, including this quarter, right, quarter 1 and quarter 4, the big jump in revenue and backlog numbers are absolutely amazing. Like I don't know how to tell you guys this, but I've just been repeating this for the last couple of minutes here because it's just absolutely astounding. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound too bullish, too biased here. I mean, I do have a position in this company that I just began today. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, this is a defense company, right? Obviously, with the drone tech and the wireless tech, and obviously their wireless products that they have with automation, right? I mean, drones themselves are automated technology, right? So this entire company, it just screams automation, right? Especially in the defense industry. So if they're able to maybe even expand their business with their wireless tech, their automation tech, not just in the drone in the drone sector or the drone industry, I think they have a really good chance to continue to grow their revenue streams and obviously potentially get to a positive free cash flow quarter in the next year or so. Okay, so hey, what's up, guys? There's more people joining in now. welcome. Late into the night here, huh? For anyone who's just joining in, make sure you guys watch it from the beginning here of the stream, the replay, because I've gone over some pretty solid information here that I think is very relevant. I have been very redundant throughout the stream so far, but I think, again, I'm just giving you guys the data that I think is fairly important for a company like this one. Okay. All right. So again, if you guys have any worries about this company and how they will grow, like specifically on how they will grow in the next couple of years once they reach profitability, I've given you guys 2 options, right? Number 1, the number 1 best choice and option that they have to grow will be through, well, just like what any other company does to grow bigger and larger, is through acquisitions, right? M&A. And fortunately for this company, they have very little debt, little to no debt at this point, and they have a huge amount of cash and assets, right, to sell off if they need to, right, or just the cash on hand to acquire a company. So I really think that this company has so many options to grow just through acquisitions alone. And again, if they decide to use and leverage debt, that also wouldn't be a problem if the management continues to stay on board, right? And they continue to implement strategies that they have used in the past to go to profitability. Again, I'm kind of speaking as if I am in the future already, obviously, because again, they're not profitable yet, but they are reaching a status of profitability potentially in late quarter 4 2027 or into the early quarters of 2028. So quarter 1 and quarter 2, right? That's kind of the time frame that they've given us so far. Okay, so yeah, I definitely want you guys to definitely want you guys to keep this ticker in your watch lists. If you guys want to take a little stab at it, go ahead. I don't think grabbing a few shares here, it won't really hurt your portfolio. Yes, it's going to be a speculative position, a growth position as well, and expect volatility, especially as a speculative position. But I really don't think you guys will have any problems with just grabbing a starter position, right? I mean, just try grabbing 2 shares. How about that? Right? It just dropped below the double-digit share price today and closed at $9.70. I mean, the opportunity is there, right? It's back to a single-digit stock, and it's still a mid-cap company. 4.71 is the market cap of this company at today's close. All right. Okay, I think there is an opportunity here. All right. Well, that is it for me tonight, guys. I mean, I really don't have anything else to talk about. Again, I didn't want this to be a very technical intensive session for ONDS. I just wanted to give you guys the fundamental reasons why I'm very interested in this company right now, and obviously into the longer term future, since I do have a new position trade, which means I'll be looking to hold for months on end on this ticker. Again, not financial advice. Do your own research, right? NFA, DYOR. I've been saying this all throughout this stream tonight. But again, I think this will be a great company to be looking out for in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. But yeah, make sure you guys check the CFO Swinger Watch Report down below. It is the second link. All right, if you guys want to join us, click on that second link and go through the process of joining us. And I'll see you guys in the private CFO Discord if that does happen tonight or tomorrow or anytime this week. But I'll be looking to give you guys an update on ONDS in the next couple of weeks or months, depending on what news that does come out from this company, or maybe there is just a market reprice that officially occurs and we'll be able to see the share price coming out of this 8+ month deadlock here of sideways action. All right, but then again, you guys heard it here first, guys. ONDS, definitely take a look at this one for the longer term. And yeah, that is it for tonight. I will see you guys on Wednesday at the same time, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your night, and hopefully you guys have learned something, and hopefully you guys take a look at ONDS and put it on your own watch list. All right, good night and good luck tomorrow.